So Imam al-Ba'li, rahimahullah, he begins here and he says that the pillars for Hajj, they are ihram. As we know, ihram is the intention to perform a particular ritual, whether that is to perform Hajj in general or one of the three rituals or rites of Hajj. The next one is wuquf, which is to stand at Arafah. Number 3 is tawaf ziyarah or tawaf ifada. And the fourth one is sa'i between Safa and Marwa. So these are pillars considered integral parts of Hajj. A step down from that is the obligations of Hajj. And there are 7. The first is al-ihram min al-miqat, so that you make ihram from the miqat, and we discussed which are the various miqats for people that come from different regions or pass by. The second is to stand in Arafah or to be at Arafah during the day for whoever passes by it, to stand there during the day until the sunset, al-ghurub, until Maghrib prayer. And that way you can stand at Arafah a portion of the day and a portion of the night. So essentially, you cannot leave Arafah if you arrived in the daytime until Maghrib. As opposed to someone that was late and came after Maghrib, then of course, they can stay just for a short period of time. Number 3 is to stay the night at Muzdalifah, to stay until half of the night. If you arrived in Muzdalifah before the middle of the night, and if you are late to Muzdalifah, arriving after the middle of the night, then as long as you're there, then you will have fulfilled this obligation. Number 4 is to stay in Mina for the days of Tashriq. And we said the days were 11th, 12th, and 13th. So you're obliged to stay at least the 11th and 12th. And if you decide to leave early, it's permissible. Otherwise, you stay until the 13th. Number 5 is throwing the stones for the jamarat. And they have to be done in order, in sequential order, from the biggest, the middle, and to the last one, the smallest of them. Essentially, they have to be done in order even if they're delayed. So if you don't complete the throwing on the day of the 11th and you delay it until the 12th, then you have to throw them in order as they would come throughout the days, even if you stack them up, if you will, on one particular day. Number 6 is to shave or trim the hair. And number 7 is to make the farewell tawaf, tawaf al-wada'. These are all obligations. Umrah, lesser than Hajj, has 3 pillars or integral parts. Number 1 is al-ihram, which is to make the intention. Number 2 is tawaf, as we know. And number 3 is sa'i, 3 things, whereas Hajj had 4. The obligations of Umrah, they are 2 in number. Making ihram from the miqat. And then after that, either shaving or trimming the hair. And then there are numerous recommended acts. For Hajj, for example, things that you either do or things that you say. Some of the recommended acts for Hajj are staying the night at Mina on the 8th night, which would be the night of Arafah, basically before you go to Arafah in the morning. So it's preferred that you stay in Mina that night. It's preferred that you make tawaf qudum when you arrive to Mecca. In the event that you are not mutamatti', if you're qarin or mufrid, that you make tawaf qudum. That you do the ramal, which is the short stepped strides, quick paced strides. Al-ittiba', which means to uncover the right shoulder. That's a recommendation. Those types of things are all considered recommendations. And then things that you say like the talbiyah, labayk Allahumma labayk, to the end of the talbiyah, making dua, such things like that are all considered recommendations. it's important that if you can remember the difference between the pillars, the obligations, and the recommendations, then you'll be able to understand what you have to do in the event that you have forgotten one or missed one or something prevented you from one. So he says here that whoever leaves an integral part, a pillar, the previous pillars that were mentioned, their Hajj will not be complete without it. It is absolutely essential that it's done. And whoever abandons an obligation, whether it's for Hajj or Umrah, even if they left it accidentally, like forgetfully, then there's a blood penalty, sacrifice. And their Hajj will be valid. So if you abandon one of those obligations, there were 7 for Hajj and there were 2 for Umrah, as long as you paid the blood penalty, the sacrifice, your Hajj or Umrah will be valid. And then if you leave something from the recommended acts, from the Sunan, then there's no harm, no foul, there's nothing that is due on you. He goes back to address some of the pillars, in particular the Arafah. And he says, whoever misses standing on the plain of Arafah, meaning that you did not arrive to Arafah by Fajr, Yawm al-Nahar, the 10th, by Fajr time on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, then you've missed it. You missed the time, because the time is from Fajr of Yawm Arafah until Fajr of Yawm al-Nahar. So it's from the morning of the 9th until the morning of the 10th. That's the duration of time you're allotted to stand at Arafah. So if you missed that, you didn't arrive until perhaps after Salat al-Fajr, then you have missed Hajj. You've missed Hajj for that year. And what you have to do is now change your intention from Hajj to Umrah. That is, if you didn't decide to stay in Ihram the entire year until the next Hajj. So you're going to make Umrah, okay? So basically you're going to change your intention now from Hajj to Umrah, and when you complete your Umrah, you will come out of Ihram. You will disengage from Ihram. And that Umrah will not be considered your obligatory Umrah. As was discussed, everyone has to make Hajj and Umrah at least once in their life. And if you have not done so, this Umrah, which is done to disengage from Ihram, will not count as that obligatory Umrah. You have to make that over again. So basically you would go and you would make tawaf, you would make sa'i, you would shave or trim your hair as you would do for Umrah, regardless if you were qarin or any other Hajj type. And then there is the sacrificial animal. So basically you would slaughter the sacrificial animal if you didn't make your intention conditional. As was mentioned earlier, that if you were to say, for example, that my place of disengagement will be where you have restrained me. That's a recommendation that if you're going to make Hajj or Umrah, that when you make the intention for Hajj or Umrah, that you make this conditional statement that if you are prevented or stopped for some reason, then you will come out of Ihram at that location, and then you will not have to do anything. There'll be no penalty, there'll be nothing to do. You simply come out of Ihram, and then you can make up your obligatory Hajj the following year, or your obligatory Umrah, you can make it up later. If you are prevented for some reason from reaching the Kaaba, the house, from entering the sanctuary, whether you're in your own country or you're on your way, even if you're far away, and even if that happens after Arafah, and you were prevented and you were in Ihram, then you have to slaughter the animal that you have. If you're in Ihram for Umrah, you have to slaughter the animal that you have, the sacrificial animal. Or if you're in Umrah, for example, you would make this blood offering, blood sacrifice, with the intention of disengaging from ihram. And if you do not have a sacrificial animal, then you fast for 10 days. And the intention here is to come out of ihram. And once you have completed the 10 days of fasting, you can disengage from ihram. And this is, of course, based on an explicit textual evidence from the imam. And then there is no need to feed the poor people with that hadi, or the blood sacrifice. And then if you are prevented, for example, from Arafah during Hajj, then you can disengage by making umrah, and you do not have to make the blood sacrifice. So that's just a quick overview of the pillars, the obligations, and the recommendations, and in the event that you miss one or you're prevented from one, what it is that you have